My paper is on the challenges and struggles of H-4 visa holders in the United States. It's an ethnographic study. And I'm going to focus on especially the women who come as dependents, known as H-4 visa holders of the H-1 visa holder, that the skilled workers. So just to give you an introduction, the Western world was created from the contributions made by the non-Western people from Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Now, when the Western world has a level of peace and prosperity, all of a sudden, the non-Western people are seen as a threat. Especially during the pandemics, they're treated as unwelcome, and Western nation states are putting all kinds of restrictions to control immigration, make their life difficult by imposing gender norms discarded by the USA long time ago. One such case is what United States is doing to the partner spouses of the techies who are coming or have come to the United States on what the state calls H-1B visa and H-4 visa, respectively. So in this paper, I'm going to focus on some of the key terms: neocolonialism, first world indentured labor, and also we see that kind of neoliberalism, and how in this economic state, it kind of a new kind of indentured labor is created, known as the H-1B, H-4 visa holders. So Indian immigrants in recent times are kind of, it's a very interesting development. The technology boom of the 1990s and the Immigration Act of 1990 introduced a distinctive category of non-immigrant H-1B visa holders. And they were the kind of, that they are the skilled high-tech workers, mainly the computer programmers and computer engineers, to come and work in the United States. And from 2001 to 2015, the workers from India received the largest share of this H-1B visa for their first-time employment, while the second largest share went to workers from China. And you can see the difference. The largest share of the H-1B visa holders are the Indians, constituting about 50.5%, and the next group are from China, 9.7%. Now in the United States, there are about 4.5 million people of Indian origin. The India-born population is about 3 million. According to the 2019 Census Bureau. Around 3/4 of the India born in the United States had arrived in the previous 2 decades. Indians have become the largest Asian immigrant group since 2014. They are also considered most successful minority. Their per capita family income is over now 123,000. The new group are distinctly identified by education and occupation, with their advanced degrees in computers, engineering, and related technology disciplines, than perhaps any other international migrant stream at any other time. So these new immigrants constitute about 10% of the American labor force in fields such as computer science, engineering, electrical engineering, and technology. So there have been some recent work on these visa holders that as we know, but just to kind of, educate myself and to inform the audience. So I'm going to discuss about the H-1B, they're the work visa. They come to the United States on a legitimate visa. And their dependents, their spouses who come as dependents, they are known as the H-4 visa. Even the children who are dependents, they are also H-4 visa holders. But the children under 21 years of age and born outside USA are known as H-4 visa. But once they cross 21, they become aliens, or they become kind of very much that they have to self-deport themselves back to their home country. So H-1B and H-4 visa holders in the United States, these are the high-skilled workers, as I told you. So the challenges, what are these challenges? That the US sets a limit capping H-1B visas around 65,000 a year. There's a limited time of stay for these visa holders, 6 years, unless a company sponsors them. Since their stay is tied to a company, they are treated like indentured laborers, in the sense that they know, the visa holders know that if the company does not sponsor them, they would lose their visa. As a result, they are willing to work long hours, they are willing to work for less money, and also that they are willing to put up with all sorts of kind of discriminations, discrepancy, because they know that their life, their livelihood is based on the sponsorship of the company. So there is a huge backlog of green cards, in the sense that after a certain point, when the company needs them, the company sponsors them for green card, that is permanent residence. And but there has been a huge backlog, because I'm just going to explain that even though they apply for green card, there is a kind of a country limit for being granted green card. No one country can be allotted more than 7% of the total work visas for green card. India, the largest supplier of these workers, suffer the most. So you can see 50.5% of the H-1B visa, but when they apply for the green card, only 7% of each country, and India is not an exception. So there has been a huge backlog for them to become permanent residents here in the United States. So I am here in this paper, I'm asking 3 questions. How Indian transnational high-skilled migrants, especially women, are affected by the visa policies of United States? How are they adjusting to the new socio-cultural environment? What kind of agency do they have under the circumstances, as they've been kind of treated as non-citizens in the United States? So the previous studies emphasize that gender-neutral USA visa policies govern more than just mobility of the transnational subject, especially women. Visa policies deeply affect the sense of self and reconfigure identities for visa holders. And the visas shape family structures and familial relationships for high-tech workers by reinforcing a patriarchal family form, with the man as the breadwinner and the woman as the homemaker. The private sector labor market benefits at the cost of the well-being of the migrant families. And now, during the pandemic, there has been a ban on H-1B visa. Families have been separated. H-4 EAD holders are in perpetual fear that they would lose their work status. I'll explain the H-4 EAD. So who are these H-4 visa holders? They are the spouses, that they're kind of the H-4 visa holder spouses. According to available research, that these are mostly the H-4 visa holders are women. And just to kind of explain why they are women, because mostly, even though men and women, they are highly educated professionals, when the worker is sponsored by the company to come and work in this country, always the wife takes the back seat, and the husband, he comes as the H-1B, and the wife comes as the dependent. So that you can see that that's kind of that's the kind of the disproportionate ratio. So 93% of the H-4 visa holder spouses happen to be women. H-4 visa, being in the H-4 visa, what do they lack? They, first of all, they don't get a social security. They're banned in this country to work. So that means they cannot work in this country, and they do not have the driver's license unless unless the husband or the spouse is present only, and they cannot have their own bank account. So, and they cannot even go for higher education, because they cannot apply for a grant, they cannot apply for aid. So it becomes very difficult for them to do anything on their own. So they remain dependents. So H-4 visa affects women's confidence and idea of self-worth, constrains them financially, disables them in social settings, and provides no opportunities to build economic or human capital as skill sets. This is by Dibya Rabindranath, who says. So, and recently, only in 2015, a new status was introduced for these H-4 workers, or H-4 visa holders. They are not workers, and this is called EAD, Employment Authorization Document. And this happened only during President Obama's administration, that introduced an executive order allowing employment authorization for certain H-4 dependent spouses of H-1B non-immigrant visa holders who have already filed for permanent residency. So you can see only a certain group of H-4 visa holders could apply to work, only if their husband's papers or their spouse's papers have been processed for permanent residency. H-4 visa holders without permanent residency approval remain stranded. Since then, more than 100,000 dependent spouses have acquired work authorization, with 93% of them being women. The Trump administration announced its intent to implement the Buy American and Hire American executive order. So there is a fear that these H-4 visa holders will lose their employment authorization. By the way, with the President Biden's administration, that all the observation studies say that the present government has not made any changes in the visa situation that was introduced by the previous government. So my interviews indicate that these visa holders are in constant fear that the Department of Homeland Security is taking steps even to rescind this program. Even with work authorization, these H-4 EAD holders are looked upon as unwelcome and are subject to all kinds of restrictions by the state, threatening their economic and family stability, imposing gender norms discarded by the United States long time ago. So I have had about I would say about 100 H-4 visa holders I have interviewed, and I have collected their life history, their kind of case studies, and also I have done Zoom interviews in the last 2 years to collect their stories. So the constant worry is that they won't be able to renew their H-4 EAD visa. That means the work status. And during the COVID, what happened, very interestingly, that these visa holders, they could not even renew their visa because of the pandemic and because the application centers closed down. And then there was a huge kind of backlog in even renewing their visa. And as a result, that many of them, they have lost their jobs. So women with H-4 EAD visa stamping application, that you can see that many, I have just collected the various interviews, and I'm not going to elaborate on it, but this application process is kind of very complex. They have to apply, they have to provide all sorts of documents. And very recently, there was a kind of a biometric introduced, fingerprinting was introduced to get their visa renewed. And interestingly, that this during the pandemic, visa stamping has become a nightmare because of these application resource centers closing down. So various case studies that kind of, just to summarize, that here they are sharing about their frustration and their fear of losing their job, losing their identity, and losing also their health insurance, so on and so forth. Also, it has kind of, that many of these women have confided in me that when they are dependents, that it also adds to the domestic abuse, that there have been several cases of domestic abuse and domestic violence. So, and the H4 without EAD, they kind of, again, they just do not even have a sense of their identification in this country. Now let me talk about the children, H4 visa kids that who come to this country maybe at a very young age, but they remain foreigners, they remain dependents. H1B workers born in India are stuck in green card line for decades due to the 7% limit quota. After arriving legally in the country, H1B visa holders' children grow up here, attend US schools and universities, but on their 21st birthday, they fear to lose their legal H4 status, as the US law requires them to self-deport. If they cannot find another temporary legal status, or in case their parents are not issued green card, and they fear that at age 21, they may get separated from family forever. So they're called the legal illegals. They're called also the dreamers. Interestingly, that they are also called the aging out children. That means at the age of 21, they age out and they become foreigners in the country that they grew up, the only country that they know in their whole life. So there are some case studies. You can see that when looking for college courses, I realized that the doors of medical education are completely shut for me because I'm on an H4 dependent visa, because they cannot get any financial aid, they cannot, and even applying, there is always, they are put into a different track altogether. So they may not have much chance as international students to get into these coveted programs. So, and even the job assignment at the age 21, they can't even apply for jobs unless they go back to their kind of an as H1, as to again compete with others to be one of the 65,000 cases of H1B workers. So a 13-year-old saying, even though I have studied in the US from primary school, foreign students like me are not eligible for any loans and scholarships when we join college. They can't even do any work. They cannot put their pocket money. They cannot do any, they can't look for any job, either in school or college, because they're treated as outsiders. So the constraints faced by women as H4 visa holders, there are many, many constraints. Patriarchal values and conventional gender relationships are reinforced. Numerous cases of domestic violence, family conflict, separation, and to the extent divorce, women being isolated from their familial support system, as well as the unequal relationship as a visa dependent inevitably skews the power relationship within immigrant families against women. So the theme of deep shame, failure, and disgrace is echoed repeatedly in the voices of battered South Asian women, says Samita Dasgupta, who often face a host of barriers in accessing services, including legal and police protections from their abusers, racial stereotyping, and language problems. I have also interviewed many of these women who live in perpetual fear that their identity is tied to their spouses. So if they file a complaint, they may be deported back to their home country. Many South Asian NGOs have come up since the 1980s to work with the battered women and provide culturally relevant services. So based on my in-depth interviews, I observed that except for a handful, a majority of these professional women, especially with EAD status, want to continue and fight against this, the present visa system, the injustice caused by the state. And at the same time, they really, instead of taking it lying, or instead of kind of reconciling to their fate, that they are building up a sense of solidarity and agency to fight against injustice. Many of these women have filed petition to the local congressmen and women to extend their EAD, that means the employment certificate, and expedite their H-1B. Also, several Facebook pages have been introduced for networking among the H-4 and H-1B visa holders. I just would like to emphasize there are many, many cases, court cases, that fighting for their H-4 EAD status and fighting against the excessive delay in renewing their H-4 visa. Now, 4 members of Congress are of Indian origin, 3 of them in very, very visible, powerful committees. They are building coalition to represent these women at the highest level. So groups like the H-1B, H-4 visa EAD holders Facebook group are used to communicate new visa policy updates. So there are many Facebook groups who are working, or who kind of play the role of support groups for these visa holders to fight against injustice and raise their voice to get justice, and also to prove their own agency. So that I emphasize that this role of the Facebook groups, the WhatsApp groups, and they work as tremendous support, because I find, and I've interviewed many of these Facebook organizers and WhatsApp organizers, how they have been really kind of, creating a sense of a movement to fight against this sort of kind of, a double discrimination going on for H-4 and H-4 EAD. So my study concludes that development of new patriarchy to control and subjugate highly educated professional immigrant women by restricting their economic freedom. This is what Foucault had in mind when he introduced governmentality. Imposing normative gender role. The irony is that these transnational women left India, and they are highly educated professional women. They were working women, and now they are forced into a new kind of patriarchy, building coalition with the political leaders of Indian origin who are visible in order to articulate the grievances they have against the state. Though through the Facebook groups, they're creating a support system among the people like them, and these groups act as surrogate family where they freely discuss their problems and are supported by various members to find solution to their problems. This is very much like the Jahaji Bhai, or it's very much like kind of, the shared uniform experience, that how it brings them closure, and they are creating a sense of camaraderie and solidarity based on the shared experience. So these narratives are continuing reminders of the structural barriers imposed by West on gendered bodies, reminiscent of when the men folk left India under indentureship and just now under H-4 visa conditions. So what kind of, I can see that is happening, helping raise awareness. The legal immigrant community is in dire need of public sentiment behind this issue. They are law-abiding, peace-loving, tax-paying community. They are in a country to fulfill their American dream on valid, approved US visa. And also at the same time, I would say that to make sure that they are recognized for their status. And very recently, U.S. government introduced a reconciliation bill where it proposes to give permanent residency to the H-1B visa workers who have been in this country for decades. Hope this bill has faced tremendous constraint. Hopefully that this bill passes, giving a kind of a new sense of agency and as new recognition to this H-1B workers as the permanent residents of this country. Thank you so much.